Hi, everyone. Welcome to a report on the World Organization of the Scout Movement. This report is being presented specifically to the Boy Scouts of America on the 14th of June, 2021. My name is Andy Chapman, and I serve as Vice-Chairperson of the World Scout Committee. I want to first thank the BSA for inviting me to give this presentation to you all. The outline for the next 30 minutes or so of this presentation is I'd like to discuss 10 key accomplishments that WOSM has made over the last year. But before we get started with that, I thought I'd give a high-level overview of how WOSM is organized and how it's structured, just for those of you who may not be as familiar as some are. So WOSM is a youth-led educational movement with global reach. We have 171 member organizations referred to as National Scout Organizations, or NSOs for short. And in these 171 NSOs, we have approximately 50 million young people, adult leaders, and volunteers. And of those 50 million, we have approximately 3.5 million adult leaders, volunteers, and other officials supporting the movement. Our NSOs are organized into 6 different regions around the world. And you can see from this chart how many NSOs we have in each of the different regions. This map shows you geographically where those regions are around the world. We have approximately 140 World Scout Bureau staff across 8 support centers. And I'll go left to right just to highlight where these regions are and where our offices are headquartered. On the left side in orange, we have the Inter-American Scout region, which BSA is a member of, headquartered in Panama. In blue, you'll see the European Scout region, headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland, and in Brussels, Belgium. In green, you'll see the Arab Scout region, headquartered in Cairo, Egypt. In red, you'll see the Africa Scout region, headquartered in Nairobi, Kenya. In yellow, the Eurasia Scout region, headquartered in Kiev, Ukraine. And last but not least, we have the Asia Pacific Scout region, headquartered in Manila, the Philippines. The Global Support Center is also headquartered in this region in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So how is WOSM organized in its structures? The supreme body of WOSM is what's called the World Scout Conference. It typically convenes every 3 years. Currently, it's every 4 years due to the delay in the pandemic. And the World Scout Conference comes together to make important decisions for the World Organization of the Scout Movement. Some of these decisions include voting on draft resolutions, voting on event bidders, so who's going to host the next World Scout Jamboree or the World Scout Moot, and they also elect the 12 members of the World Scout Committee. This picture shows the 12 members of the World Scout Committee that were elected at the last World Scout Conference in 2017 in Baku, Azerbaijan. You'll see I'm one of those elected, and I'm wearing the red shirt in this picture here. Our terms were also extended by 1 year due to the pandemic, so we'll be serving a term of 4 years from 2017 to 2021. It's a great privilege for me to serve in this capacity and be elected by the World Scout Conference. Now, the entire World Scout Committee is made up of more than just the 12 elected board members. In total, we are 27 members. Those, in addition to the 12 members that I just mentioned that are elected, there are 6 youth advisors. They're featured in the front here that are elected by the World Scout Youth Forum. We have 6 regional chairpersons that represent each of the 6 regions we discussed earlier, and 3 ex officio members being the representative of the World Scout Foundation, the WOSM treasurer, and the Secretary General or CEO of WOSM. So that's how WOSM is organized. So now I'd like to discuss 10 key achievements that WOSM has made over the last year. Since the start of the pandemic, we have continued our efforts by endeavoring to increase our understanding of the true needs of NSOs and maintaining our close connections through events and bilateral meetings. We've also sought to identify new opportunities to position scouting as the go-to youth movement and activity of choice for young people. From an administrative perspective, we have been operating under a 1-year transitional plan, which I'll mention more on the next slide. And we've also been continuing to exercise prudent financial management and implementing new interventions such as project management tools and digital upgrades to improve our ways of working and how we interface with our constituents and world at large. Moreover, we have seen unprecedented interest in scouting from other partner organizations, and the resilience shown by our movement made many governments recognize the importance of investing in scouting. As some of you may recall from my previous presentations I've made to BSA, the 2020-2021 plan was designed to focus on 5 pillars of work: supporting membership retention in a changing reality, supporting NSOs in their new financial reality, strengthening scouting's role and impact as a key actor in local communities, connecting the movement, and long-term focuses and core business continuation. Those pillars of work were then segmented into more than 20 specific projects. As you can see from the graph, nearly 50% of the work, or actually more than that now, has been completed, with a number of projects that are ongoing or in the process of being launched. With the pandemic and the postponement of the 42nd World Scout Conference and Youth Forum, WOSM was required to pivot its approach in order to fulfill its governance requirements. With support from NSOs, we have reimagined the conference in a virtual context and have been working to solidify key elements. We've selected the platform and will be running simulations with NSOs to ensure that accessibility and functionality are met. We believe we have an excellent setup for the conference to be convened that's going to bring together more than 4,500 delegates from the 171 National Scout organizations that we have. As part of the World Scout Committee's mandate, the World Scout Committee reviewed and approved a series of draft resolutions that it will put forward for consideration at the 42nd World Scout Conference. These resolutions include the 7 that are highlighted here: a draft resolution on the WOSM registration fee system with an aim to continue the current system in place to ensure stability and predictability for NSOs during the uncertain economic times caused by the global pandemic. A draft resolution encompassing the Triennial Plan 2021-2024 with a focus on supporting NSOs to recover from the impact of the global pandemic and working together during the final leg in building towards Vision 2023. A draft resolution and a constitutional amendment to significantly strengthen safe from harm, which in the BSA is referred to as youth protection, to strengthen safe from harm compliance and support to member organizations. A draft resolution outlining the key goals and objectives of the next youth engagement strategy following the completion of the 2011-2020 iteration. A draft resolution evolving the current formats of the World Scout Youth Forum and World Scout Conference and consolidating them into a new enhanced and youth empowering experience. A draft resolution on the World Youth Advisor System, outlining a series of measures to significantly strengthen youth involvement in decision-making in the next period. And last but not least, a draft resolution on environmental sustainability, strengthening environmental education and scouting, and developing a climate strategy for WOSM with clear action for all levels, aiming to achieve climate neutrality of WOSM's operations. As a result of the pandemic, we had to adapt our ways of working, similar to this virtual meeting and that were the way I'm presenting now virtually to you all. Just in the last 6 months, we've had 138 virtual world and regional events. And on the next slide, I'm going to highlight some of these events. In December 2020, we had the World Scout Bureau Centenary. In the Arab region, we had workshops on using the NSO data portal. In the Asia Pacific region, we had the second Regional Education Forum. In November 2020, in Europe, we had the Academy Global, the final of the youth dialogues. And the Arab Scout region, we had the first virtual Eco Jamboree. In October 2020, we had Jota Joti, which is Jamboree on the air, Jamboree on the internet, GSAT virtual assessment in Cambodia, training for NSOs on how to support adults in scouting and their well-being in quarantine. In March 2021, we had Africa Scout Day, the second Eurasia 3-bead wood badge training, 4 webinars on strengthening fundraising in NSOs. In February 2021, we had Founders Day Town Hall, Europe Stronger Together Campfire on inclusivity in NSOs, a big challenge competition in the Arab region for local community impact projects. And in January 2021, we had the Inter-America Scout Foundation meeting the Asia Pacific region Strengthening Financial Management workshop and the Global Communications Network workshop on communicating in crisis. The fifth point I wanted to talk to you all about is the Messengers of Peace, or MOP, and Scouts for SDGs. Instead of me telling you about the Scouts for SDGs, I have a video I want to play for you. So if you haven't heard of Scouts for SDGs, obviously you can find more on scout.org website. I will say it's one of the most, if not the most popular scouting programs around the world. And it reinforces the Sustainable Development Goals approved by the United Nations. So Scouts, no matter where they are in the world, they can look at these 17 goals, decide which ones they feel are important to them, and to participate in scouting activities specific to those goals, then come and report back on what they did for that goal. And then you can, if you go to the website, you can see actually other Scouts projects around the world and what they are doing to help achieve these Sustainable Development Goals. Thanks to the generous support of the World Scout Foundation, we were able to publish the 10-year evaluation of Messengers of Peace. This report was a joint production between the World Scout Bureau and the World Scout Foundation with the help of an external consultant. Hopefully you've all seen the report, but if you haven't, I want to highlight a few important notes on the impact. The initiative mobilized some 28 million Scouts worldwide to deliver 1.92 billion hours of service to their communities at the time of launching the report. So we've crossed that. We've actually achieved more than that since the report. Messengers of Peace displayed good value for money. For every dollar invested, it resulted in at least 71 hours of service. For every funded project, there were some 30,000 non-funded projects. Some of you may remember our visit to the United Nations in November of 2018, when we marked the 1.2 billion hours of community service delivered through the Messengers of Peace, and we pledged to deliver 4 billion more hours of community service by 2030. In January of this year, I'm pleased to report that we hit the 2 billion service hours, celebrating the remarkable work of young people supporting others during the pandemic. We can all be proud of this real impact and our ability to deliver on our promises. We have marked this milestone with the communication campaign across all regions by engaging our partners. Here's just a few examples of how Scouts as Messengers of Peace around the world have contributed to the SDGs. Australia Scouts supported communities affected by the bushfires by helping injured wildlife, packing and distributing food donations for affected communities, and volunteering in evacuation centers. Croatia Scouts got behind a major reforestation campaign with over 6,200 scouts and volunteers planting over 65,000 trees across Croatia in the past 2 years and bringing environmental programming to more than 5,000 children. Honduran Scouts promoted nutrition among children and seniors by collecting and delivering milk from supermarkets to over 21 assistance centers for children and the elderly. Scouts in the Philippines formed the Peace Project to focus on reducing waste reduction and promoting recycling across the country. Nearly 10,000 scouts are actively involved in recovering 6,300 kilograms of paper products and over 2,200 kilograms of plastic. So those are just some examples of impact stories. To move on, I'm also pleased to see that the continuation of the Messengers of Peace and donor advice funds during this period has continued. Additionally, with the support of the World Scout Foundation, approximately $426,000 of additional support was provided to support the governance, management, and administrative expenses. Between October 2020 and March 2021, 47 new projects were implemented, totaling $1 million, over $1 million. Also, with the support of the World Scout Foundation, we're now able to help support NSO recovery from the pandemic. Out of the 2.8 million approved for this year by the World Scout Foundation, 1 million is now available in a special fund for NSOs to apply for funding to promote membership recovery, retention, and growth. We're also able to benefit from additional contributions made by the World Health Organization, or the WHO, to support our activities. As mentioned previously, the World Scout Committee and the World Scout Bureau paid close attention to monitoring and regular assessment of risk, particularly in financial management. We spent considerable time at the start of the last World Scout Committee business meeting to review an extensive risk matrix, which placed special emphasis on COVID-19 associated risk and our operations, finance, and membership. We're pleased to note that the assumptions that we used in developing our budget were conservative and allowed for us to continue delivering on our core business while providing support to NSOs. However, we believe that we're not out of the woods yet. We will need to be cautious in managing the upcoming period while still managing the uncertainties that are being caused by the pandemic. The chart here shows where WOSM's annual revenue sources come from. I get that question all the time, asking how is WOSM funded? So the 171 member organizations I mentioned earlier contribute to approximately 30% of our revenue from their member registration fees. 31% comes from donor advised funding through the World Scout Foundation, and an additional 23% comes from the World Scout Foundation operating grant from the endowment. Another 15% comes from other sources, including fees, seminars, networks, and then 1% comes from sales from the World Scout Shop. Our spending is informed by WOSM's Vision 2023, where Scouting aims to become the world's leading educational movement, enabling 100 million young people to become active citizens, creating positive change in their local communities. Everything that we do in World Scouting is tailored towards supporting National Scout organizations in the following areas: strengthening the capacity of NSOs to deliver quality Scouting education to young people and reach a standard of excellence in organizational management and sustainable membership growth. Developing high-quality programs for young people that have a positive community impact in a safe and inclusive environment. Equipping adult volunteers with relevant skills and expertise to support program delivery of programs to millions of youth. Engaging in strategic partnerships to enhance the design and delivery of initiatives to benefit more young people, and ensure our volunteer-led governance structures are well prepared to make informed democratic decisions in the most transparent way possible. You can see from this chart how we invest in our various areas of work to deliver the strategy for Scouting. Next, I wanted to highlight some great accomplishments that we have with the WOSM services that were just launched during this last triennium. Now, of course, WOSM's always provide support to National Scout organizations, but for the first time, we have a new streamlined approach on how we support National Scout organizations. We currently have it organized into these different service areas, those being youth program, youth engagement, adults in scouting, diversity and inclusion, better world framework, safe from harm, spiritual development, scouting and humanitarian action, global support assessment tool or GSAT, good governance, communications, growth, and partnerships. So NSOs can view this as a menu, if you will, to select the area of service that they would like WOSM support in. I have a video to share with you all to explain WOSM services in more detail.
Welcome to the WOSM Services. This is your new one-stop shop for everything that a National Scout organization might need from WOSM. It streamlines our support services to you, the NSOs, so together we can provide an even better experience to even more young people wherever they are in the scouting world. So what exactly are the WOSM Services? The WOSM Services group together all the resources available to NSOs, from policies, toolkits, and guidelines, to e-learning and in-person support, even workshops and training courses. We've included material designed at regional and world levels, as well as best practices from NSOs themselves and advice from experts. We've organized these resources into 12 key areas: youth program, youth engagement, adults in scouting, safe from harm, better world framework, diversity and inclusion, spiritual development, scouting and humanitarian action, good governance, global support assessment tool, communications, and partnerships. As we go along, we'll expand these areas and even create new ones to ensure that you, the NSOs, have the support you really need. How do the WOSM services work? It's based on 4 simple principles: providing full visibility to NSOs about the support available from WOSM, ensuring a user-friendly experience for all NSOs, making it easier to request support, ensuring every NSO, wherever they are in the world, has access to the same services and the highest quality support, and enhancing monitoring and evaluation of WOSM support for NSOs to ensure continuous improvement. We've developed an online platform which contains everything you need to know about the WOSM services, the resources available for each service and its corresponding support areas, and most importantly, the ability to request a service from WOSM. How can you request support? Any NSO in good standing with WOSM can request a service through their official contact person. Once your request is submitted, our skilled staff and volunteers from both regional and global level will evaluate it and follow up. You will be assigned a consultant, either staff or volunteer, to guide you through the process and deliver the service to your NSO. The whole process will be monitored on the platform, so we provide the highest quality support and continuous learning worldwide. What does this mean for WOSM? Providing high quality and impactful support to NSOs is of paramount importance to achieving Vision 2023. The WOSM services mark a major shift in the way we support NSOs. For the first time, support will be streamlined, focused, and effectively monitored. The WOSM services have gone from idea to reality in just 1 year with the support of the Messengers of Peace initiative. Excited? Check out the WOSM Services platform. And if you have any questions, get in touch through services@scout.org.
So continuing on WOSM services, so far we've provided 490 services, and we currently have 103 active services ongoing. 74% of NSOs have received a WOSM service, and 9 out of 10 is the score on how likely an NSO would recommend a service to another NSO based on the evaluations that are provided. You can also see the breakdown on the right side here of the percentage of the services received by NSOs or NSAs by each of the different regions. Also have a success story on welcoming a new member to WOSM, being the Solomon Islands. So the service that was requested that connected 3 different regions to accomplish that, and the application for WOSM membership was sent in March of 2021. So we'll see if that ultimately gets approved. And as mentioned, there's been many resources on capacity building and toolkits, many resources that are available online, and we've conducted many webinars throughout the year to support NSOs as well. So the 8th area of accomplishment for WOSM this past year that I want to talk to you about is communications and partnerships. Global communications network doubled in size since April 2020 with strong engagement. Membership now includes communication leads from 107 NSOs or NSAs with representation from all regions. The new format for Scout Pack and templates to standardize branding and content of world and regional newsletters is underway, and WOSM languages team in cooperation with staff and volunteer co-leads appointed for all working languages to be provided, plus training on SmartCat Complete. In collaboration with our Big Six global youth organizations, we delivered the first ever Global Youth Summit in April 2021. I had the pleasure of being a presenter at this event, and it was really an exciting program to participate in. For those of you who don't know, the Big Six global youth organizations are the World Organization of the Scout Movement, WOSM, the YMCA, the YWCA, the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts, or WAGs, the Red Cross, and last but not least, the Duke of Edinburgh's International Award. The event was a great success, and we were able to inspire, enable, and engage with a young audience dedicated to global youth mobilization for the generation disrupted. We are working on several impactful partnerships as well. We're working on renewing our MOU with KAICID, a new MOU with UN volunteers, and working with UNHCR to develop our work in humanitarian action as part of the WOSM Plan projects. Our youth-led advocacy is spreading its wings, with Scouts taking up leadership roles in the UNESCO NGO Liaison Committee and UN Environment's major group for children and youth. Our brand and positioning has really grown, with an increase of invitations, outreach, and partnership opportunities at all levels. Global youth mobilization, new collaboration with the Big Six, is a huge potential for a new valued partnership going forward. Scouting was also featured at the UN's ECOSOC Youth Forum, moderating a panel with heads of state and Dr. Tedros from the WHO, Health Organization, on youth-led COVID recovery. This year, we'll be focusing on developing new types of partnerships for the new Better World Framework programs that are under development, including new funding opportunities for NSO to implement programs. We're looking forward to a strong mobilization of Scouts in the lead up to the UN's Climate Change Conference in November. This will be an important moment to position Scouting as the leading organization in the environment space, both at the global and national levels, and we're preparing a campaign and kit to direct support to NSOs on how to leverage this moment for everyone's positioning and advocacy. Ninth area I wanted to talk about is the digital transformation going on in WOSM. Just briefly wanted to highlight that WOSM's undergoing a revamp of all its digital structures, including the scout.org website. This is to ensure that we are relevant with youth engagement in all of our online programs and our features. And 10th, last but not least, our new business development unit that we launched. We launched a business development unit to help the World Scout Bureau increase its capacity for support to NSOs with their various projects. 88% of NSOs are expected to decrease in income this year based on the survey that they provided. And NSOs have requests for additional support in fundraising and partnerships. So for these reasons, this is why we launched the business development unit, based on what the information we're receiving from NSOs through our surveys. The business development unit has some key objectives: to coordinate the One World Scout Bureau's partnerships, fundraising, and grant management efforts, including by convening the current thematic teams on partnerships and messengers of peace, and exploring how these can be further innovated in their roles of streamlining these One World Scout Bureau operations. Also, to initiate and coordinate WOSM's advocacy work and engage a network of youth representatives. Also, to coordinate WOSM's sub-granting system to national Scout organizations. To support the World Scout Foundation in managing donor relations for Messengers of Peace and other donor-advised funding grants. To continue innovating and strengthening the technologies being used for grant management and online giving donations. And to interface between donors and partners and internal units and teams in the One World Scout Bureau. Our goal for the business development unit is to provide better evidence on the impact of Scouting towards the vision, to improve the tracking of progress in key work areas and strategy, to extract lessons for organizational learning and benchmarking, and to facilitate evidence-based decision-making. So that concludes the 10 key areas that I wanted to highlight here. As we come to the end of the presentation, I also wanted to point out to you all that we have the 2019-2020 annual report of WOSM that I would encourage you all to read. This can be found on www.scout.org/annual-report 2019-2020, or you can just Google WOSM Annual Report 2020 and it should come up for you. A lot more details that I wasn't able to highlight here with you all in this presentation. So with that, this presentation draws to an end. Again, I want to thank the BSA for inviting me to give this presentation. It's an honor to be with you all and wish you all the best of luck in scouting in the future. Thanks. Talk to you soon.